37-year-old Muhammad Abdul-Rahman was killed.
Prosecutors say they murdered the American dream tonight.
Muhammad Abdul-Rahman moved his Sudanese family to America.
He was gunned down during a robbery of his store.
3 men are convicted in the shooting death of a Louisville.
It's not easy for me to meet with them.
John Benton learned his sentence today. He was found guilty.
Good evening, I'm Stefan Johnson from WDRB News. Tonight, we're taking a closer look at a high-profile murder case involving 3 young men. November of 2008, 37-year-old Sudanese business owner Muhammad Abdul-Rahman is shot to death inside his New York fashion store in the Portland neighborhood.
I'm so mad. I'm angry. Because this is not the first time.
The murder is not only a devastating blow to Abdul-Rahman's family, but also the local Sudanese community, and is felt from as far away as New York City. Right away, police know from this surveillance video and a witness they're looking for more than one suspect. Metro Police Detective Rick Arnold now has the identity of the missing 3rd person.
As it turned out, he was the 2nd person in the store, and we had video of the 2 people that came in. And we didn't know who the 2nd one was for a long time.
Police now know that 3rd person is John Benton, and even learned he has talked about the crime to close friends. But for now, his whereabouts are still a mystery.
They even had information that he had told them that he was involved in the crime. Not the full extent of his involvement, but that he had been there that day.
Once inside the interview room at Metro Police headquarters, Detective Arnold needed Benton's help.
What I'm here to talk to you about is the New York fashion shooting. And I know you have a lot of answers to some questions I'm going to ask you.
What we needed to know was who were the 2 that went in the store and what would the 3rd person do. And as it turned out, John told me that he was the 2nd one in the store, making himself more responsible for the more serious crime in terms of being in the store with a gun as opposed to a getaway driver.
And yeah, I'm the guy you're looking for. I went there with him, but I never intended to kill anybody.
John Benton, the last man arrested, and to this point the only one to show remorse, writes a letter to the victim's family and then asks for and is granted a jailhouse meeting. It is a risky move both sides are willing to make.
Nobody say I do this one, and I want to help him. Why they kill them?
This is amateur video of the meeting.
How deeply sorry I am for the actions I took that played a role in the death of Muhammad Abdul-Rahman.
All my thoughts, prayers have been for you and those kids, because I'm a victim of the same. I know what it feels like, and that is the last thing that I would ever want to happen to any person. I'm sad that I was involved in such a thing.
I try to understand why he killed him and what he tried to say.
It is a meeting that potentially put Benton's life on the line.
We told him in the room down there we were well aware that there's no plea on the table for you in regards to this death penalty case.
We, the jury, found the defendant Alexander Ruff guilty.
All 3 men are eventually found guilty but avoid the death penalty. Instead, the triggerman Alexander Ruff is sentenced to life in prison, and Kendrick Robinson, the getaway driver, 15 years. As for Benton, he is the last man brought to justice and the last to be sentenced.
Mr. Benton, I will impose the sentence that arose from the resolution of the case, which is 5 years on the convicted charge of manslaughter in the 2nd degree and 10 years on the robbery in the 1st degree conviction to run consecutive for a total sentence of 15 years.
After nearly 3 years, John Benton has finally been sentenced for his part in the crime. But unlike his co-defendants, Benton is still talking. And what he has to say next might surprise you and even explain why he's so remorseful.
It was extremely hard. I couldn't focus on the things I needed to do most of the time, and I have a daughter, so it was always hard for me just anticipating that I would be in this situation and missing out on her life.
With the trial and fear of the death penalty now behind him, John Benton and his attorneys invite our cameras to be part of another conversation, but with limitations. Christopher 2X with Fight Crimes Against Children is conducting the interview, and that's when Benton talks about his connection to the victim's family.
You are also a survivor of a homicide victim, which is your dad.
When I think of his wife, I think about my mother, and I think about, you know, what she went through trying to raise 3 boys without a male figure. And you know, it was just hard because me growing up without my father, I can only just about imagine what they're going through as far as him not ever being around again.
Benton reveals his own father was murdered years ago and says that's why he was devastated the very moment he heard Muhammad Abdel Rahman did not survive the shooting.
That night, I found out, I actually turned on the news and it was on the news. And
37-year-old Muhammad Abdel Rahman was killed.
Right at that moment, I fell down on my knees and I begged God for forgiveness. The more I paid attention to what they were saying on the news about him and his family, I know my heart just went out to him.
He was the last man brought to justice, but Benton says his last months of freedom were anything but.
You got a lot of looking over your shoulder. You don't know when they may come to you. You worry about that on a daily basis. It's kind of hard when you know you've been involved in a situation like that as far as turning yourself in, because I felt that I wasn't responsible for someone else's murder, and it was real hard for me to come to a conclusion as far as turning myself in.
Benton says he considered turning himself in, but in the end, police had to come to him.
And I asked him one time, you know, why didn't you come to me? Why did you make me come find you? That would have looked better for you in the long run, but you know, his answer was he doesn't know.
Detective Rick Arnold with Louisville Metro Police says despite the fact that he had to find Benton, he believes his remorse and actions are sincere and that Benton never intended to hurt anyone.
My gut feeling tells me that he truly believed they were going there to do a robbery. The guns were just what they were. They were guns with bullets in them, and from that perspective, they deserve what they get. But I don't think he had any idea that Ruff was going to fire a shot, much less kill somebody. I'm divided because I think the reality is he is remorseful, but at the same time, he could have done more to help out, and he didn't until he was in the corner.
I think I should give up the ghost.
I felt that my life was over, and I didn't know how else to deal with it other than, you know, just I went to my Bible.
And Benton says it was his Bible that directed him to his next move.
But you were determined to meet with his family, and they granted that request.
And I felt that I had to be strong, and I had to have that conversation with the family.
Meanwhile, Benton's own family was also in court watching the trial and his actions. He was not able to speak to them, but 2X was, and shares this message from Benton's mother.
And I try to tell him, whatever you do, don't never lose your faith. Always have faith. Because the good Lord sits high, and he always looks low.
She always told me that I had to lead by example in everything that I did. And that played a big role in the things that I did as far as this case, and how that ultimately me apologizing and wanting to apologize.
And before the interview ends, 2X has another message, this time from the victim's widow.
And Samaya wanted me to show you this. This is a picture of her and her 2 daughters, Muhammad's daughters. At the time of his death were 1 and 3 years old. She said Muhammad's missing from the picture, but she wanted you to see this picture as hopefully a motivator for you as you have to go forward and deal with your penalty.
Until I'm thankful that she's wishing me well, and I'll do the best I can.
When I moved, it's so bad.
Samaya Haran and her husband, Mohammed Abdel Rahman, moved to the U.S. to escape the violence in the Sudan and to start a family in a safer environment.
America is our dream, you know. It's like we came from life from bad to better.
But in November of 2008, their American dream turned into the American nightmare.
I'm at home when they called me and they said he got a shot.
Haran receives a call that her husband has been shot during a robbery inside his Portland clothing store, New York Fashions.
I just saw him cry so hard. From that time, I just got it. Maybe he's not okay.
At University of Louisville Hospital, the first person Haran encounters is a family friend, and the news is not good.
He said, Muhammad, he just died right now.
It would be several months before the killers are brought to justice, but when it does happen, Haran sees a familiar face.
The third person is Kendrick. He's a customer, and I know him. He came and he asked about if he got work through Christmas because he really needs some money. And he just tells them, okay, come work through Christmas.
But instead, Kendrick Robinson is the getaway driver in the robbery and shooting that claims Abdel Rahman's life. It is a big surprise and devastating blow to the victim's family. But perhaps the biggest surprise is still to come.
When two ex tell me that he want to talk to you and he want to tell you sorry, and the thing he done is so sad about it.
Before the case even goes to trial, John Benton asks for and is granted a jailhouse meeting with the victim's family. Haran says it is a meeting she could not refuse.
Nobody say I do this one, and I want to help him. Why they killed him?
Pains me every day. It's pains.
A lot of people have said that they believe he's remorseful or did not go in there with the intentions of shooting your husband. What do you think after talking to him?
I believe that. I believe that he's, he don't know, like Raf, he gonna shoot.
The murder not only left Haran without her husband, but also two young daughters without a father. During the trial and interviews, John Benton reveals his own father was the victim of a murder. In time, Benton will be able to do even more to help the victim's widow, perhaps through dialogue.
One of the greatest things that can happen when this has happened to you is to be able to have those questions answered. But in time, I can see communication because she needs that.
But for now, Samaya Haran needs something else.
It's tough, you know, it's like when the end of the month comes, I just thinking about how I can pay my bill.
After the death of her husband, a relative took control of the clothing store, and Haran is now forced to do something she's never done before, to put food on the table and care for her two young daughters.
And now I just looking for a job, you know, to support my family. So it's tough life.
A tough life, but maybe it gets better through forgiveness. If so, that explains Haran's feelings about the three men responsible for taking her husband's life.
I just forgive them. I just forgive them.
I think I should give up the
Kendrick Robinson, Alexander Ruff, and John Benton are all now serving prison time at maximum security prisons in Kentucky. Meanwhile, a judge has ordered the family member who took control of the store to pay Samaya Haran $70,000. So far, she has not seen a dime of that money. This has been a WDRB News special report. With photographer Matt English, I'm Stefan Johnson.